Hiya guys, Mike here at Royal Eclipse Productions, and welcome to the condensed version of my beginner series video 2, in which we're talking about what system you may need for your music and audio production. Please don't worry if some of the terminologies here are confusing you at this point. As you begin to follow the videos and study music, study sound, these are gonna become very clear to you. So what I've tried to do is break these down into 3 different computer setups, and they're going to kind of be aimed based on what you're going to need to do. So don't think that when you're starting over on the left hand side here on the entry, and I'm talking about your price range being £800, and then the higher end is kind of starting at 3,000. You know, it's basically about trying to target where you are and what you want to get out of your system. So without further ado, we're going to talk about the entry system first, moving up to the high end system. So entry system I've kind of put into kind of 5 to 25 tracks, mostly audio. So you're recording guitars, you're recording violins, you're recording basses, you're recording drums. You know, if you're a musician or a band, or you're doing audio edits, dialogue edits, you're recording voiceovers, you're a podcaster, you're doing basic engineering, this system will be fine for you. So some of your workflows will be recording instruments. You know, you may be using effects pedals on your guitar outside of your computer. You're using light plugins, so EQ compression, and you're mixing, and you're kind of light automation, so you're doing some panning, you're doing some volume automation, things like that. And then you're perhaps mastering your tracks moving forward, but probably outside of your DAW, you'll be using it in its own container, so the system can handle it on its own. You're going to need a minimum of a dual-core Intel i5 processor running at 2.2 GHz and above, 8 GB of RAM running at 16 MHz, and at least a 256 solid-state or Fusion drive. Just go into your local Apple store if you're buying Mac, or your local PC store if you're buying PC, or online, put those specs in, and you're going to be fine for these workflows. Price range, you're probably looking at between about $800 and $1,750. That's the pounds, $900 starting, and about €920. Up to $1,800 and €2,000. So that's your kind of entry system. Your Optimum System, which I suppose is if you are in the entry level but you can afford the Optimum System, go and get it because you're future-proofing yourself. And that goes the same if you're an Optimum user but you can afford a high-end system. You know, getting the best system that's going to last you for the longest period of time is kind of the way forward in my book. So your Optimum System is kind of 30 to 60 tracks, both MIDI and audio. So now you're using sample libraries, moderate to large composition templates, you're doing orchestral mock-ups if you're a film composer, you're working with sample libraries, you've got using a lot of plugins, heavy to moderate automation, you know, you're working to video if you're working with film. You're recording instruments, you're grouping, you're mixing, you're mastering. So this is aimed at, you know, composers, music producers, musicians and bands who've got large sessions. Perhaps you use sampled violins in your tracks, you're using sample libraries, you know, and you're a sound mixing, mastering and dub engineer. You guys are going to need at least a Qaud-Core i7 running at 2.6 or above, 16 gigabytes of RAM, guys, minimum. You need 16 gigabytes of RAM for this if you're using sample libraries. Get the speed at least 1866 megahertz. And a 512 Fusion SSD, you know, so again, just go into an Apple store, say I want this, what's the closest to this I can get in either a laptop or a desktop. Price range, you're probably starting at about 1,300 on the Windows side, going up to about 2,700. That's based on the top end late 2016 MacBook Pros, which are awesome, by the way. Then, you know, $1,600, €1,500, moving up to $2,800 and €3,200. So you're starting to get a little pricey, but you know, if you're serious about this and you want to do it, just spend the money, guys. It will keep you going. Now we move into the high end. So this is kind of 100 plus, 200 plus, track, large kind of composition templates. Your heavy use of sample libraries. You're also kind of working to video. You're using lots of EQ, lots of compression, limiting. Heavy grouping, heavy embossing, you're mixing, you're even doing surround sound mixing, you're dubbing film sessions with all the different elements, you're mastering. You know, you guys are going to need a heavy system. So for you guys, you're going to need an 8-core Xeons E5s running at least 3 gigahertz, 64 gigs RAM minimum running at 2133, and probably a 1TB SSD. And you guys are going to be starting at about 3,000 in pounds, going up to 6,900. 3,750 in dollars and about 3,500 in euros. So that's your kind of top end. It's getting quite expensive. Hard drives, we'll talk about in other videos. You can get, if you feel you need more than 1TB, 512 or 256, nothing's wrong with buying an external hard drive to plug into your system to store your projects on. But we will talk about that later in kind of other peripherals you may need. I hope that video was useful, guys. I'm going to put a card up to the top right of this video if you want more information about this in more technical depth. There is a half-an-hour video available to you guys, so I'll put that up there. You know, if this is confusing to you in the specs, just talk to someone in your local Apple store or your local PC store, or go online and just put these specifications in, and you're going to get the right system. Okay, guys, take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.